We're back, folks. I know it's been a while. I know it's been. I know it's been a while. Your GM had to take a break, okay? The news was dry. I needed to process a few things. I need to figure out a few things. I was on the road scouting multiple players for my next 3 drafts that are going to be coming up. I had to do it all, but guess what? We're finally back, okay? And guess what? What is the best way to come back? With a bag alert. That's right. We got a loaded episode, okay? So buckle up, get your water, get your popcorn, get whatever you need to get because buckle in. It's gonna be a long one, all right? We got a bag alert. Quentin Miners gets paid, all right? He gets the bag, okay? He gets the Brinks truck, okay? Brandon Aiyuk, of course, we have to talk about it because why? He's officially, air quotes, decided to request a trade from the 49ers. We're also going to be doing something different. We're going to be reacting to the Hard Knocks episodes that have come out so far. Even though it's only 3 episodes, we still got to talk about it because there's a lot to just gnaw off of, okay, with that situation. And we also have to talk about my problem, my beef, okay, with this top 10 list that always comes out every single year. We're going to talk about that. And also, we have breaking news, okay? Eddie Jackson has decided that he is going to sign with the Ravens. All of this and more on the 15th episode of not one of, the greatest football podcast that is known to man and civilization. I am your host, who is currently not on the team right now, who has been on the road for the past 3 weeks prospecting to see my next prospects, my next Hall of Famers. Kale, let's get it. All right, folks, and we are back. Okay, I know it's been a while. You probably wondering where you've been. What's been going on? Nothing really. I just decided I need to take a break. At some point, everybody deserves a little bit of me time, and I decided to take it at a time where, for one, there's not a whole lot of information going around. There's not a lot of rumors, not a lot of movement, and everybody else is taking breaks as well. So I was like, you know what? Might as well, take a break as well. Plus, it gives me time to figure out, how I can continue to feed the masses with, different types of content as well. Just know we got more stuff cooking up, all right. But we're not going to talk about that, okay? Because we don't have time for that. We need to talk about these bag alerts, okay? Quinn Miners, guard for the Broncos, Denver Broncos to be specific, inked a 4-year, $80 million deal, $45 million guaranteed. He'll be making $20 million a year. Unfortunately, Spirac did not have the signing bonus, but it's probably something reasonable. When we look at Quinn Miners, especially on that offensive line, has definitely been one of the bright spots. I do realize that the Broncos are going through a lot of turnover recently, but for Quinn Miners to be one of those bright spots on the offensive line definitely says a lot. Not only with the coaching that is in place there, but as well as his skill set. Okay, because this is probably going to sound crazy, but I remember when he was coming out of when he was coming out of college, there was just something about him. I don't know if it was his skill set. I don't know just the potential that he had, but there was just something that gravitated towards me continuing to look at his highlights, because in my mind I feel like he could have been possibly a second round pick, me personally. And for him to basically get taken by the Broncos was definitely a good situation. Now personally, I probably would have preferred for him to go to the Steelers, especially with us drafting Kendrick Green instead of him, but we don't always get what we want, unfortunately. So congratulations to Quinn Miners. Definitely one of those bright spots for the Broncos. And it's only up from here. Now, Moving on to, unfortunately, Brandon Aiyuk, because I know, we all know are tired of talking about Brandon Aiyuk, but we have to talk about it because he officially, air quotes, big air quotes, the biggest air quotes you can possibly think of, decided to officially request a trade from the 49ers. Now, you guys already know how I feel about this, but I'll just continue to, beat a dead horse at this point. Brandon Aiyuk has continued to show why, if you are a team that needs a receiver, why you should not go after him. Okay. When you look at the antics, basically this entire offseason since the Super Bowl, okay, he has just been, continuing to, at times, sort of be a noob. And the reason why I say that is because it's one thing if you want to handle your business privately and you can be disgruntled, privately and publicly, but to a certain degree, right? But what he's doing is somewhat, it's just a little bit outrageous. It's unnecessary, honestly, because yes, I understand that that you do want your money, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not, saying, oh, you can't get paid and whatnot. No, I'm not saying that. But there is a way that you have to go about it, okay? And the way that he's going about it is not the most professional, okay? You are, looking at Commanders practice tape. You're going with Jaden Daniels, and you're basically telling them, they didn't want me and all this other stuff. You're going on various podcasts talking about that you want to go to this team and go to that team. You're just doing anything and everything to get out of this situation, but you don't even realize that you're in a better situation than one of the other teams that, if he was to go to them, right? Case in point, if he would have went to, for instance, the Commanders, or if he would have went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, guess what? You would not be able to compete for a playoff spot, let alone a Super Bowl. Meanwhile, you're on a team right now that most likely will probably be in the Super Bowl again, right? So I understand that you do want to get paid. I understand that. But it comes a time, a point where you have to realize at some point, is this going to help me or is this going to hurt me? Because if you're a team, like I just said, if you're a team that's looking for a receiver, you basically, in some ways have talked yourself out of trying to go after a Brandon Aiyuk. Because if he's doing this with the 49ers, and this is his first payday, imagine what he's going to do if he start actually being more consistent, putting up numbers. Imagine, if he was to get, major awards and accolades of that nature. It would be a nightmare, a complete nightmare. And I don't think teams really want to do that. Not to mention the compensation that you would have to give up to get a Brandon Aiyuk. That's a first round pick automatically, with no questions asked. If a team calls the 49ers right now, and if they are inquiring about Brandon Aiyuk, guess what? If the next few words are first round pick, they are hanging up the phone. Okay? That is a first round pick, and that is probably either a player and a pick or multiple picks. And, I know that the running notion has been that he's either going to go to the Commanders or the Steelers. And I understand there are Steelers fans that say, we should get Brandon Aiyuk. If we get Brandon Aiyuk, that'll make a Super Bowl team. Let me be the person to tell you. Let me be the bearer of bad news. You will not be a Super Bowl team if you get Brandon Aiyuk. You will not. You won't even be a playoff caliber team if you get Brandon Aiyuk. Because getting Brandon Aiyuk means, guess what? That means that you are taking away resources, future resources that you would need in order to make your team better and complete and to be able to make a playoff run, let alone a Super Bowl run. And if you do that for Brandon Aiyuk, that's going to make things look bad because you're now bringing in someone who in some ways has definitely just been this thorn in the 49ers side. Now you're about to bring him into the building. You're going to have him with George Pickens? No. You want to get rid of that. You want to eliminate that altogether, because if you don't, you will have another Brandon Aiyuk 2.0 in your team and you won't be able to know how to handle it. That's just what it is. Then plus, not to mention, you still have a lot of players that you have to figure out what you're going to do with them come next year. You still have to pay Pat Freiermuth, still have to pay Najee Harris, still have to figure out what you're going to do with the quarterback, because you don't even have a quarterback that's under contract next year. So what does it look like you going after a receiver if you don't even have a quarterback on your team next year? Think about that for a second. I'll let you wait. Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. Now, if you're a team like the Commanders, the 49ers will probably be more open to it because, for one, they realize that the team is still going through rebuild. They're still trying to get themselves together. And, with that first round pick is going to be a high first round pick because most likely they're going to be within, the top 10 to 12, maybe 15 range compared to if you get a pick from like the Steelers or whatever, it's going to be a low first round pick and you don't want that. So I say all that to say this, and I'll hit you, with some numbers. Okay, according to Spot Rack, Brandon Aiyuk's market value is a 4-year, $104.6 million deal. He'll be making $26.2 million a year. Okay, now if we reverse and look back at past episodes, the word that was going out was the 49ers had offered Brandon Aiyuk had a $26 million a year contract on the table for Brandon Aiyuk, and he didn't want to take it. So I understand that, in the NFL, when you have an opportunity to get paid, you have to get paid. I understand that. That's perfectly fine. Definitely not opposed to that. Definitely pro player to get paid. But at some point, if you just did something a little bit unusual, right? And instead of you trying to get 30 million, you get 26 or 27. Who's really complaining? Nobody, because guess what? You still get paid. And if you win this year, you win all the way, you get a Super Bowl, guess what happens? That means most likely that when you hit free agency, someone's going to be wanting to get a deal from you. Simple. If you just did a 1-year, $20 million deal, who's going to say anything? Because guess what? After this season, you're free to do whatever you want. No one can say anything. But if you keep on, try to be somewhat of an ass when it comes to contract negotiations, then people are not really going to rock with you. They're just not. They're going to ship you to a crappy team that's not going to go anywhere. And then, you'll get paid. But guess what? You'll never go to a Super Bowl again. You'll never see the confetti. You'll never go to the playoffs. None of those things. And I don't think you don't want that. And I think that's wrong with a lot of players now, where it's like they just see the money when they don't see the opportunity. If you are on a team and you've been to the Super Bowl the last, three of the four last years or whatever, I'm going to keep on riding that wave because at some point we're going to win one. We're going to win one. But if I be a nuisance, then what was that going to show? Nothing. It's not. It's just going to hurt you more than help you. So, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. I know as a Steelers fan, I do not want Brandon Aiyuk at all. We have eliminated all of the nonsense and all of the, internal noise. Let's keep it that way. Let's, keep the temperature in the locker room cool. Okay. We don't want to keep on cranking it up, cranking it down, cranking it up, cranking it. No, keep it where it is. It's in a good spot. We're in a good spot. We just have to continue to build through the draft. Maybe, hit on some free agency picks as well as develop our own players. Now, moving on from that, because I'm not talking about Brandon Aiyuk anymore, just because it is just a horrible topic just to talk about, just because it's just so plain, because it's always been the same thing. He wants more money. He wants more money. Okay, no one cares. No one does. Now, moving on to Hard Knocks. Now, this is probably the first time I've actually really talked about this. But, if you if you haven't seen Hard Knocks, I would definitely recommend that you see it. For this specific reason, I would say you should definitely look at Hard Knocks, because it definitely gives you a glimpse of how things are taken care of, within the front office. It shows you the behind the scenes of, the coach and front office relationship. It shows you, what were their thoughts, leading up to the draft and the end of the season, and, any star players are looking to get paid, any of those different type of things. It is important that you look at Hard Knocks, okay? HBO Max. I'm not trying to do this, not trying to promote it. Don't have a sponsor yet, but, we'll definitely get sponsors. But HBO Max, if you want to be a sponsor, hey, we can put one right here, okay? when you look at Hard Knocks, after looking at these 3 episodes, I can definitely say that the GM is definitely over his head. And I say that respectfully, in the most respectful way possible. And if this turned into a little bit of a mini rant, well then, oh well, who cares? And the reason why I say this is because what sense does it make that you went out of your way to get Brian Burns, but you didn't do enough to try to bring back Saquon? What sense does that make? Okay, the this is oh my god, this is so weird. Okay, this is what the owner said. The owner said, "I'm gonna have a," and I quote, "I'm gonna have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes." That's what the owner said. That's what John Mara said. That's what John Mara himself said. I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes. If your GM and your owner tells you that should be a switch in your head that say, you know what, we got to go into overdrive. If I got to fly out or drive out to where this person is, and we got to hash this thing out day and night and day until you hate seeing, my number pop up in your phone, well then, oh well, because I value you that much. But you literally allowed him to quote unquote test the free agency market, and in doing so, he went to your division rival. Think about that for a second. Why in the world would you want to let someone like a Saquon Barkley just hit the free agency market and quote unquote test the market? That's not someone that you just test the market for. No. And then not to mention, you're so committed towards Daniel Jones when you don't even realize that Daniel Jones so far has been a below average to average at best quarterback. You're talking about somebody who, the Giants basically, was working, towards the last minute to try to get a deal done for Daniel Jones, okay? But it seemed like they barely put, any time, any effort into trying to really bring back Saquon. Like, really think about that for a second here, folks. They went out their way and got Brian Burns, which is, no disrespect to Brian Burns at all. But they went out their way to get Brian Burns, but you didn't do enough to keep Saquon. And your logic is, oh, if we bring in someone like a DeAndre Swift or a Devin Singletary, they can do just as much as Saquon do. No, they can't. No, they can't. As no disrespect to them either. I don't care if they say, "Oh yeah, I can do the same thing that Saquon can do." No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. You do not have that same influence on the field that a Saquon Barkley does. Okay, Saquon Barkley is putting butts in seats at that stadium. Okay, not Daniel Jones, not anybody else. It is Saquon Barkley. When you look at that stadium and you see those little kids, guess what you're seeing? A bunch of them wearing Saquon Barkley jerseys. Not Daniel Jones's jerseys, Saquon Barkley's jerseys. Okay. Now, if you want to go from a record standpoint, I'm gonna pull it up for you. Okay. According to StatMuse, shout out to StatMuse, Daniel Jones's record without Saquon is 8-14. 8-14. Daniel Jones's record with Saquon is 14-23-1. The Giants' record with Saquon is 25-48-1. The Giants' record without Saquon is 9-18. I say all that to say this. Saquon is needed on that team. Because if you don't put him on that team, guess what? They're not going to win games. And granted, I understand in the first 2 episodes, the GM, basically said, they wanted to invest more into the offensive line. And they did. They got Jermaine Illuminor, then they got John Runyon Jr., which were great pickups. They were. But you just kept on hearing them, say, oh, what about Chris Jones? What about Christian Wilkins and, this person, that person? When I'm thinking to myself, you don't need that. You need to invest more into the offense because the offense is stagnant. If we are being real here, folks, Saquon Barkley has been the most productive offensive player for the Giants since OBJ. That's a fact. That is a fact. And you just let him just walk. Just Let him walk. Didn't even think about it. Didn't even try to fight. Didn't even try to, really, talk to him and have a real conversation. What sense does that make? Really, what sense does that make? When we sort of, go a little bit deeper into this, into the situation here, the Giants, offer, according to CBS Sports, by way of the episode, the offer was from the Giants was 3 years, 12.5 million, 25 million guaranteed, right? He signed with the Eagles 3 years, 37.75 million, $11.6 million signing bonus, 26 million guaranteed, 26 million guaranteed at signing, right? When you look at Daniel Jones's deal, right, which, if we're being real here, it's starting to blossom into a very horrible deal. 4 years, 160 million, $36 million signing bonus, 81 million guaranteed at signing, 92 million guaranteed. He would be making, according to Spot Rack, 40 million a year. Okay, it's just a bad situation because, whether we realize it or not, the Giants put too much responsibility on a rookie. Okay, I'm going to say that again. With them not bringing back Saquon, that put a lot of pressure on Malik Neighbors, because now Malik Neighbors is now the primary offensive weapon for the Giants. That's what he is at this point. It's not Jalen Hyatt. It's not this person. It's not that person. It is Malik Neighbors. Okay, and you have a bum of a quarterback who, has really only had one winning, quote unquote, one winning season, and since then has been battling injuries all those other years, and really has nothing to show for. That's what it is. Okay, and Giants fans, I understand, you guys might be a little bit angry with this Hard Knocks, especially with the GM, and rightfully so. But I definitely sensed I definitely sensed a little bit of tension from that front office once Brian Daboll, basically stormed out of the room after, the GM was still trying to get a deal done to get Brian Burns. That let me know that he's definitely pissed, because you're still trying to invest into the defense when you should have been investing more into the offense, honestly speaking here. Now, granted, I understand, getting Devin Singletary was, it was a pretty good pickup, and then drafting Malik Neighbors was definitely good as well. But if you would have had Saquon matched up with Malik Neighbors, that would have definitely taken things to another level, instead of just sticking with, oh, you know what, it's okay, we don't need that. We got Daniel Jones. We got this person. We got that person. It does not win, because guess what? I can make a strong case right now that the Commanders are a better team than the Giants. I can make a strong case for that right now. I can make a strong case that out of all the organizations in that division, the Giants are the worst. And it completely shows why they have not continued to learn their lesson from the OBJ situation. They haven't. And, do I think things are going to get better? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. It's probably in the corner somewhere charging. But, to say that this is going to be, a great situation, I don't know. I definitely don't see it. I do feel like the GM, had his eyesight on one person instead of trying to bring back, a homegrown player. And, he's going to pay the price for it, because you're going to have to see Saquon Barkley twice a year. You're going to have to see that. And I don't think you really want to see that. But that's on them. That is strictly on them. Okay? Now, and, I didn't have this in my notes, but I do feel like, it is something to talk about now that, the disciplinary actions have been given out. Former Lions cornerback Cam Sutton has been suspended for 8 games. Now, this is what I will say, and I'm going to try to bob and weave with this situation as best as possible. I do feel like, personally, the Pittsburgh Steelers shouldn't have signed Cam Sutton. I definitely feel like they shouldn't have done that. And the reason why I say that is because there you had options, right? You had options. You had a Stephon Gilmore, Chandon Sullivan, Patrick Peterson. You could have traded for, for somebody. There's so many different things that you could have done to address the cornerback position. Okay, and you going after Cam Sutton with the allegations, and the and the judiciary situation that he's in, for you to do that definitely was sort of a bad move. It really is, because I understand that you guys will probably say, oh, he's a great person, he's this, that, and the other, we never saw this, and all those different type of things. But this is a very serious situation, and you're going to be without him for basically half of the season. You're going to be without him for 8 games, okay? And you don't have anybody else other than Joey Porter Jr. and maybe Dante Jackson that you trust. You don't. And you could have went after a Stephon Gilmore. That's not super expensive. You could have went after an Xavier Howard. You could have went after a Dory Jackson, Chandon Sullivan, Patrick Peterson. There are so many different other people that you could have went after. And for you to go after somebody who has these legal troubles is not good. It's not. It's a bad look. It's somewhat of a hypocritical move, because you eliminated all the noise on the offense, but then you brought somebody in that has these problems back into the team. And the only thing you can say is, oh, we did our homework. That's not a good enough answer. That's not. Because you had options. You had options. And you did not do your due diligence and try to go after those options. That's not good. That's not a good move. It's just not. And I'll just leave it there. But I just feel like the Steelers could have done a better job at, potentially addressing certain positions. I just feel like, they wanted to take the easy way out, quote unquote, and try to go after somebody that, won't cost them a whole lot of money, won't break the bank. Well, in a situation like this, I would have rather paid a little bit more money for somebody that's not having pending legal troubles, that I know that is going to be suspended for multiple games, than to go after them just because they were on my team and I, quote unquote, know them. Now, moving forward. The problem that I have with this ESPN top 10 list is that it's more opinionated than factual, right? And the reason why I say that is because it's based off of the opinions of GMs, scouts, and whoever else that they ask for this list, instead of just doing it based off of facts, based off of stats, okay? Because it's one thing if these lists are backed up by stats, then I can't really argue with you. But if they're backed off of opinion, then I have my reason to argue with you, because for real, if we can be real here, there are some people that should not be on the top 10 list, okay? Case in point for the quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers should not be on the top. Should not be in the top 10 list. He shouldn't. Sure, he was probably a top 10 quarterback when he was for the Green Bay Packers, but since he's been with the Jets, I can't say that. I cannot say that, and I will not say that. You could have easily put Dak Prescott on there. You could have easily put a few other quarterbacks on that list. And I'm not even saying Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, but you definitely could have put and moved up some people, especially Lamar, okay? Because I understand Joe Burrow definitely, has been, he's definitely been one of the better quarterbacks recently. I get that. I respect that. All props to him. But I feel like we are diminishing, the accomplishments of people like a CJ Stroud, like a Lamar Jackson, because these guys have they've shown a lot in a small amount of time. Lamar won his first MVP on a team with an old Mark Ingram and Willie Snead as his best receiver and Mark Andrews. Okay? That's what he did. In my mind, I respect that more than someone like a Jamar Chase, not Jamar Chase, than a Joe Burrow, who, if we're being real here, has only had one healthy season. That's it. He's only had one healthy season. I cannot respect that with you just having one healthy season, and I mean, granted, you went to the Super Bowl, but you only had one healthy season. Every other season, you've been hurt. You have to factor in these different types of things if you're going to make them opinion based. But if you are going to use stats and whatnot, then okay, cool. That opens up for a different conversation. Okay, even when it comes to certain positions, you know that certain positions, their stats are a little bit wonky as far as how are they recorded and whatnot. So I don't understand why in the world they would want to try to, do something like this. I really don't. It's a little bit frustrating because you want to make sure that players are noticed, but at the same time you want to make sure that you are not trying to create more controversy than what it is. Okay, we all know that when it comes to the quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes is number one. Okay, everybody knows that. Now when it comes to the rest of that, me personally, I think Lamar's number two. And then CJ Stroud, I do feel like CJ Stroud is probably maybe number five. Boo, 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 boo. Maybe Josh Allen. Josh Allen is definitely up there because Josh Allen is definitely he's definitely like that. Joe Burrow is up there as well. Dak Prescott is up there somewhere. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are up there, but the list that they have is just I just don't like it. I don't personally. Now with this small little rant, because I want to keep things light. I don't want to try to just be this hour-long episode. I don't want that. This is my problem. This is my problem with the Steelers. Okay, this is what grinds my 990s. Okay, the Ravens just signed Eddie Jackson to a 1-year deal. Okay. Meanwhile, the Steelers have not done anything, and the Steelers do need to address their secondary more, and as well as their defensive line. And the Ravens continue to retool and repatch themselves up to really be able to contend with the best of the best and really try to make a push to go and win a Super Bowl. And the Steelers on their hands and not do anything. And you cannot say that, the Steelers don't have any cap space. Yes, they do. They do have cap space. Stephon Gilmore is not going to cost a lot of money. Xavier Howard is not going to cost a whole lot of money. Even Justin Simmons, I wouldn't even touch him right now because he still feels like he's a $12 or $13 million safety, when in whole time he's probably a $5 or $6 million safety. If we're being real here, you have to address these positions now. You cannot wait until cut day and then try to pick up somebody and think that it's going to work. No. If you bring in someone like a Stephon Gilmore, that changes the playing field because you have someone who, despite his age, he is still playing at a really good level. He can tackle. He can play inside and outside. He has the playoff experience. He's won. Okay? He's won Super Bowls. I think he's won a Defensive Player of the Year. He has been at the top of the mountain. Okay? But you just sitting there and then a whole bunch of speculation about a receiver instead of really addressing the defense, that's not going to win you anything. It is not. The players that are still available in free agency, they won't be asking for a whole lot of money. At best, they're probably just looking for opportunity to, potentially win some playoff games or maybe possibly make it to bring in these low level to washed up players is not going to solve anything. It never has and it never will. Like a Patrick Peterson it's not gonna solve it. It's not. Okay? It's just not. I'm sorry. Me personally, Stephon Gilmore is top priority, then is Xavier Howard. That's who it is. And you have to somewhat position because aside from Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson, who else can you rely on? You can't rely on the Benny Bishop. You can't rely on the Anthony Averett. You cannot rely on Darius Rush or Corey Trice. Now, granted, you could probably try to see how they do in training camp and then figure things out. But as of right now, you cannot do that. You have to bring in somebody else just to bring in some more competition. But at the same time, they can be somewhat of a mentor to that position. But hey, what do I know? I'm not on a team right now. That's the end of my rant. Now, if you guys love what you are listening to, please, 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 please download these episodes, leave a 5-star review or a 4-star review, whatever review that you want to leave. If you want to say that this is the best podcast in the world, hey, cool, go for it. If you want to say that, hey, I want to join the Junkies team, hey, cool, perfectly fine. Follow us on Instagram at football_junkies pod. Again, that is football_junkies pod. It is the same tagline as well for our TikTok and our YouTube. Now, with us, being able to take this break, we are going to push to try to put out more content. Camp starts for a lot of people next week, so stay tuned for that. It'll probably be really compact and whatnot, nothing long and drawn like how the podcast episodes are. It'll probably be a quick 30 seconds to a minute, maybe 2 minutes at best. But as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you need. We are back in business, folks. That's right, we are back in business. All right, stay tuned. We do have more content coming out soon. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Oh, also, I have to share this achievement with you guys, my fellow junkies as well. We hit 200 downloads all time. 200 downloads. That is a major accomplishment in my mind, as well as for you guys as well, because without you guys, I would not be able to give you the fix that you need, let alone be able to start this journey of being a podcaster. So I definitely want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. As always, I love you guys. Get ready for training camp, get ready for more content, and as always, peace and love. I'm out.